Okay, so far everybody's on the same page-ish. Some people still talking about peak states, and that's okay.
Oh,
But I just saw it stream by. All right,
okay.
so here's the big thing. So you use this stuff, you get good, you got someone anchored, you fired the anchor and you've tested it, okay? And people, you notice that they have a response. Very important point, okay? People are not going to explode just because you fire the anchor, because the response is a subconscious response.
Right.
Okay, if you have somebody feel good and they go, oh yeah, and you set the anchor, when you fire that anchor, do not expect the oh
Right.
yeah response.
That's a good point.
Okay, it's going to be subtle, it's going to be very low level, but it's still incredibly powerful.
One thing we've seen is when you expect it in a seminar room or even in therapy, you do get that response because people are expecting it, they're open. It's
Voluntarily doing it.
volunteering, and when you're doing it in public, in the real world, people don't have the extreme response. They might smile, they might light up a little bit, but they're not going to explode.
If they do, then they go back to that other thing where it's outside their normal, what we call the power zone.
Right.
That is where you have your power when it comes to persuasion. You got to remember, this is all in the persuasive context, which is
Right.
a little different than therapy. All right. So, the big question: I got it. Now, what do I do with it?
And that's the funny part. We have over the years, we thought for a long time teach people to set anchors. It's really obvious. You use it when you need it. You use it on an action. You use it here, there, everywhere. And we found out that it's not so obvious. People were setting a lot of anchors, and then they thought they were done. But what use is it if you set it and don't use it for a result?
Yeah, and the thing was that the mistakes that I saw people make. You remember, I've been doing NLP hypnosis and all this stuff for. God, I'm old.
I started in 90. I started in 94.
Right?
Yeah.
So lots of stuff.
Yeah.
Right? And I'd see people walk up and fire a good anchor, and that person would feel good.
Right.
And then they'd try to talk to them. Okay. Well, now they've distracted them. They feel good, but they haven't really connected it to anything.
Right.
Okay. So the example that we have is you've got to give direction, and you've got to fire the anchor before you give them the action you want them to take. And that's an important point. It has to be on an action.
Yes.
Okay? Firing an anchor and making someone just randomly feel good.
The most effective anchors
Does not
are
work.
on an action because you're moving in a direction for persuasion.
Yeah. Okay? So I want to give you some examples of, firing a good anchor, firing a bad anchor, and, and then maybe we'll do the objection destroyer things.
We might go to a few specialty anchors we use because they're so universal that you can go out and do it right away.
Let's pretend that I anchored everybody on this chat to a good feeling. Because I did, and you probably didn't notice. So anyway, all right, but I have a good feeling, okay? And I'm trying to sell somebody something, or we're in a situation.
Yeah.
And, the other thing is you want to anchor it, or use this anchor in little steps. You don't want to walk up and just like, hi, how you doing? Are you feeling good? And just boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, you don't want to keep hitting an anchor. You keep hitting it, it's just very unusual. It's not effective. You're not giving it direction. You just keep hitting it, making them feel good all the time. What you want to do is use it as punctuation. You want it to be interspersed through the conversation, only on actions. You set it later, and then you might put a few different states in it, not every state for 5-10 minutes, and then it punctuates an action.
Yeah.
Highlights it.
The question you have to ask yourself is, when you're getting ready to use anchors, what action do I want them to take? Okay? So if I want them to just fill out some paperwork,
right?
Because that would be the next small step in getting them to buy.
And when we teach, what we teach in sales is getting people small steps along a path using anchoring. So it's kind of alluding to that.
Yeah. So all right. I would sit and I say, okay, all we need to do now, I would fire the good anchor, is fill out some paperwork.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay? And the anchor, the action is fill out some paperwork. Okay? I've hit the anchor before that. I've primed them.
Right.
I don't know if it makes sense, but Hank will jump in if it doesn't. I've primed them to have the feeling they're going to have and attach it to whatever I say next.
Right.
Okay?
To feel good about what you say next. Right?
It could be something simple like, all we need now is your email address.
Yeah.
So just fill out your email address and we'll see where it goes.
Right.
Why don't you give me your phone number and I'll give you a call later.
Yeah, let's connect.
Yeah, let's connect.
Right.
Okay? All of these things that you hit the anchor, let's connect, boom. It's very rhythmic almost.
Using this, I
There's a rhythm to it.
made a business contact with a woman I started talking to on a street in San Francisco who was walking her dog.
She could have been homeless. I don't
She's
know.
a good business contact. She's a mortgage or some kind of mortgage broker at a bank. So it was very, it's very fluid and it's very useful. And so little steps, action,
Yeah.
right? And what you're going to say next?
Yeah, it could be something as simple.
Yeah.
If you have a chance, could you grab me a cup of coffee? Okay? The person's
Oh.
going to get me a cup of coffee.
And I was going to make a point. I know everybody here knows embedded commands.
Yeah.
Right? And so do we. We've learned them. We used them. We taught them for years.
Yeah.
Now, embedded commands, when you have a presentation or something that's very well planned out, are useful. In sales and social situations, they are both chaotic. You don't know what direction the sale is going to take,
All unpredictable, yeah.
what the next step is going to be, how long the sales process is going to be, or the social or the connection. So the thing we found that people had difficulty with in that is embedded commands. You want to layer 3 in a direction that they really couldn't come up with them on the fly very well.
No, it's one of those
It
things
requires
that
planning.
It worked, but
Right.
in the real world, it just took so much effort that it was distracting.
It took a lot of planning, and most people never were willing to make the effort to do that very well. Excuse me. So, with the anchor having novelty and emotion and taking small steps where you minimize most of the time, you can nudge someone, and really anchoring is about nudging someone in a direction, not a push, not making them do something they normally wouldn't do. It's helping them choose the path that you're pushing them down. So,
Tom,
yes.
So you said that before we direct them, we trigger the anchor just right before we,
Right.
ask them to
Before the action,
comply.
Right.
Yeah. So do you have like the timing, or probably do you have a strategy of deciding, when is actually ready, or you just trigger the anchor and then you give them the command or the embedded command?
Yeah. Okay, so...
we have a
Oh, look, I made a mess.
You mean I'm figuring out, do you mean I'm figuring out the timing of the anchor or the timing of when it's all right to start nudging in a direction?
the nudging one.
Okay.
Okay. So, like in a sentence, for instance, or...
Well, you can actually start nudging someone in a direction right after you set the anchor, right? But we assume some things, right? You're assuming, one, I'm not going to start, if I'm in a sales situation, but we also have sales strategies we use, I'm not going to set an anchor and then immediately say, let's sign a contract. It does, of course, have to be,
big step.
it has to be appropriate. So, but I can immediately use the anchor to say, oh, well, how about we go look at some cars? How about we go do this? Maybe I could just get your contact information and fire the good anchor on that. You can immediately use it. Of course, you're assuming rapport at that point because you should have rapport, and we do teach that. We teach layered in with our anchoring seminar. And we teach we do teach our own way of doing it. I know you guys probably use a lot of mirroring and matching. So, yes, you can use the nudge at any point. Making it appropriate, minimizing. There are a lot of other skills involved. Well, a few other skills involved. And in our sales process, we ask questions first to build rapport in a more subordinate state so that people feel understood. And then we move on to giving them information where we take a more dominant state. And then at that point, more start firing anchors.
I mean, this may be a little advanced, but for just an hour-and-a-half presentation. But you guys, you use a lot of presuppositions, okay? You can use an anchor on a presupposition to make that presupposition more true. Presuppositions engage the imagination. Once you engage the imagination, then, they've done studies and they found out that if somebody imagines doing something, they're way more likely to do it.
Right.
So if you can get someone to imagine being in this really great car, or imagine, going out on a date, or in my case, that never worked out well. But once, great once.
One time.
One time.
But it makes them, what it does is make them feel good about the action you're suggesting. And to give you an example, when we were in California, I went around making contacts everywhere because that's what I do. One, I like to talk to people. And two, you couldn't tell, could you? I like to talk to people. And two, I find it useful to practice what we do. What we do for a...
We use it every day.
We use it all the time. So if we don't practice, how can we come up with new things and make it clear that what we do works? So I think most of my conversations with people where I made contacts took about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
5 to 10 minutes. From setting an anchor, building rapport, firing and creating an action that I wanted them to take, and nudging them in that direction, and they were all successful.
Okay, so the cool part about this is that the bad anchor can also be used while you appear to say something good.
Right.
All right?
In sales, this is very useful.
This is when you want to stop movement. Okay? They want to do something and you don't want them to. For instance,
Right.
if you're selling to somebody and they want to go talk to more people.
Right.
Okay, they want to go get more prices. All right? And let's just pretend this is my bad anchor. Everybody's having a terrible day, blah, blah. How's the coronavirus going for you, blah, blah. Any of that, all right? Bad anchor. I can agree with them and make them feel not so good about doing it.
Right.
So the example is, I could say, of course you can hit the bad anchor if you think you have to.
Or I think that would be a good idea for you to do that. I would never suggest that you move ahead without doing that.
Yeah.
And the thing is,
I think you need a second opinion. You have a bad feeling attached to second opinion.
And in particular sales situations, we teach a lot of face-to-face sales. And in particular sales situations, it is common to get 3 bids at least. Or you don't feel like you're doing the right thing unless you're talking to 3 people.
Yeah.
And if you're the first person, generally, I think people tend to choose the last person they talk to, right?
Most likely they're just irritated at that point.
Yeah, they're irritated, ready to jump, and ready to make a decision. So if you're the first person, you actually are in a bad position unless you can convince them to either go with you or make a good, really amazing impression. So this is where that becomes useful. You have to bypass the normal structure of how people buy.
Yeah. So there's, and the funny part is this, the mistake most salespeople make is people say they want to get a second opinion or more, and they turn up the pressure. They start high pressure closing them.
Right.
Oh, but wait a minute, and they usually drop their price like idiots. Okay, let me tell you something. If you sell on price, you will die poor. Okay.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is. Okay?
It's true.
You'll be poor. And everybody will be really happy about the stuff they bought off of you, but you will have nothing.
Well, and the truth is most people don't buy only by price, especially with a higher end purchase. They go with a medium, the mid-range price, and if you're the lowest price, it looks suspicious. And you can also use that by saying in your presentation, and if their price is a lot lower, then you have to wonder what they're leaving out.
It's a really great
yes.
By the way. It really is a good, because it's basically... We call it setting basically a landmine or a time bomb.
Yeah.
Okay? You know that somebody else is going to say something.
Right.
All right? So when they say it, they will trigger your bad anchor.
Right.
So you can say, look, I know there's a lot of people out there, and what they're going to do is they're going to tell you that our price is too high. All right? Or that they can get you a better price. And you have that associated, that feeling, that phrase is now associated with that bad anchor in the bad bucket. So later on, they're talking to somebody and you're not there, and somebody goes, I think you can get a better price. I can give you a better price. All of a sudden, they have a bad feeling because that guy did exactly what you predicted he would. Right.
And if you've been in this field for a while, you know what they're going to say. You know what the competition is going to say, and even what lies they might tell. Because when we buy things, some people, a lot of salespeople lie. Let's be honest. It's true. We do not
No.
We do not teach people to lie because, like I said, we believe in relationships. And once you've lied to someone, the relationship's gone. So we help them inoculate people against the lies the next salesman, our competition's going to tell them, right?
Yeah.
So